Let's get to this episode. This week, gentlemen, the name on the marquee has got to be Alex Poatan Pereira, who this past weekend, in front of 19,000 strong at MSG in New York City, New York, USA, became the 9th ever UFC two-weight champion by becoming the now new light heavyweight champion in the UFC, defeating Jiri Prochazka by TKO via elbows and strikes in the second round. The official time 4:08 of round number 2. Oh my goodness. What a fight this was while it lasted. Mark, start us off. Give us your take of the performances of these two men and of the finish.
Yeah, this was great. Great hype around this fight. I loved the moment early on when they're having that stare down. Jiri walks to the center of the cage. Pereira doesn't even consider moving a muscle of his body in response, but they just stare holes through each other as Bruce is announcing the fight. That was awesome. This whole card was great. Just straight violence through the whole card. But yeah, I mean, it was a good fight. We didn't get the crazy fight I think a lot of us were hoping for, that was, more akin to like the Jiri Glover type of back and forth craziness. I mean, no one thought it was going to be that level of craziness, but I think we thought we might see some. Really what we just got is Alex Pereira again establishing his dominance. The guy is now a two-weight champion, 11 fights into his pro MMA career, which is nuts. And obviously he has tons of pro kickboxing experience, but it's still crazy to consider that 11 pro fights into his MMA career, the dude is the champion of 2 UFC weight classes, or I shouldn't say has been. And he's different, man, because we know, of course, he's this elite level striker, but usually when you think about guys who you give that title to, like let's say an Anderson Silva or Adesanya or Conor, all these guys, you think about the way they move and the traps they set and the variety of strikes they throw and the beauty of their games. Whereas Alex Pereira just kind of stands there and does two things. He throws a right calf kick, his right leg, kicking his opponent's lead leg, and he throws a death touch left hook. And he does both of those things while barely even moving. Like he doesn't have any of the flashiness of these typical elite strikers that you talk about. I mean, you can barely even tell that the calf kick is coming. And the left hook, he doesn't have to really do anything. It can knock you out from 5 inches away with no windup. So he's just a wholly different type of elite striker than we're used to seeing. And I think that's what makes people say, like, man, like, shouldn't guys be able to beat this guy? Because it seems sort of straightforward what he's doing in there. But, man, you try stopping calf kicks that you can't even see, that have no tell, and eating left hooks that are nukes from any angle. And I don't mean to say that's all he does. Like, obviously it's not. But that's the gist of it. He's a pretty unique champion. And Jiri fought well while it lasted. His awkwardness was definitely working. He got the takedown in round 1, which you knew he'd probably look for. And he was winning round 2. He was landing some really good shots, but the lead leg was getting beat up all fight, and then he got caught. And I thought it was a bad stoppage at first myself, but Jiri did say he was out, and it was good, so that is what I will go with, and I'll trust that, even though it didn't look that way. But, yeah, it was an unbelievable win for Alex. He is the king of MSG. He's now won 2 belts in that building, and he is back at top of the division and calling out Izzy again.
Is he getting it? We'll get to that a little bit more in depth in a little bit. Omar, let's bring you in here. What were your thoughts of those techniques that Pereira was throwing? It looked like it was a typical Jiri Prochazka fight that was kind of shaping up, as Mark was alluding to. It was going towards there. You could kind of see that it was starting to build up to that pace, but then just like that, Pereira has that game-changing left hook. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's what he does, man. He's got a mean shovel hook for a left hand. I mean, he doesn't even really throw the hook over top for the most part a lot of the time. A lot of times he's trying to come in, to cut off almost an opponent's strike, or to kind of come inside. It's a very tight hook, and it comes up at an angle that just seems to wreck dudes left and right, man. I mean, Mark kind of pointed out pretty nicely is he's not the flashiest, right? There aren't head kicks that are getting thrown. There aren't spinning back kicks that are getting thrown. He really does stick to the fundamentals, but the dude's got so much power and he throws so well that there's not really much he needs to do, right? I think the biggest concern with him, I think we saw, was his ability to be taken down. And to his credit, he didn't get submitted. He didn't get completely outworked. He was able to defend himself on the ground. He did look pretty damn good on the ground, considering he is not a ground fighter, right? So I thought he did relatively well against somebody who I think is a lot more experienced on the ground than him, or at least I would imagine is. And then when we got to the second round, we got to a point where I think we all knew, right? These two main events that we had between the heavyweight championship and the light heavyweight championship, I think we knew that somebody was going to die in each one of those events, right? Or in each one of those fights. Like, it was going to happen. All of these guys have been wrecking dudes left and right, depending on, they've all been wrecking dudes left and right, regardless of who they've been fighting, right? Jiri's been knocking dudes out before he blew out everything. And I was not surprised to see Alex Pereira come away with the knockout. I was kind of in the same boat as Mark, though, where I wasn't really thrilled with the stoppage. And then Jiri came out and said that he was out and it was a good stoppage and stuff like that. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, because when you watch it, your Prochazka is conscious, right? But my guess is he probably doesn't remember anything. He probably remembers none of it after he got clipped, maybe the first time. And there's a lot of different, videos that you can look at. There's a guy I follow on Instagram who's actually just going over the same topic about memory loss, and it's fucking video. Has been going over memory loss and things like that. And he was playing one of his fights. His name is Damian Trainer. For those of you who don't know, he's on Instagram. Very knowledgeable UK Muay Thai fighter. Definitely would recommend. But he was going over a fight that he had way back when, and he remembers getting clocked in the face really hard, and he doesn't remember anything after that point. But you can see him continuing to still fight, and I don't think he won that fight, but he continued to keep going forward. So it does beg the question, like, what is really a knockout, right? Like, the body is still moving, but it doesn't seem like the brain's really working the same way anymore, because it sounds like Jiri was done, but his body was almost like an autopilot. Like, he was still moving, he was still there.
Yeah.
But when you ask him and when you try to have him recall it, he's like, I have no idea. I got hit.
I mean,
don't
how
remember
often do you hear guys who win fights in the post-fight interview get asked about, you did get knocked down in round 2, how hurt were you? And they're like, yeah, I don't even remember it. I'd have to see it again. Like, you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
So
true.
even though he said he was out, you wonder, like, his body was clearly still going. So you do wonder if that just would have been one of those moments, if that fight got to continue, where he's fine and he keeps fighting, and then later he's like, yeah, I don't remember that when I got clipped, Yeah. So it's tough. All those fucking moments are tough. I mean, Goddard must have saw something that made him say, I need to
I mean,
this.
let's not, the dude went limp a couple times. He got back into it seemingly, right?
It all happened so fast.
It did, but he got fucked up. There was definitely real damage that occurred in those moments for sure.
And the way that he fell, not just did he fall back, but he fell back with and Pereira fell on top of him, mounting him.
In mount.
So so Pereira wasn't going anywhere. So Goddard, in all likelihood, was saving Prochazka from, many more devastating shots.
Yep.
Very possible.
I mean, Prochazka not protesting it makes it easy for me. I'm fine.
Same.
For sure. Yeah, man. So let's talk about this this call out and the post fight interview with Rogan in the cage there. What did you make of it, Mark? Of him calling out Israel Adesanya, who is still a middleweight? Last time I checked,
it was unique because at first, because they've been like a little bit friendly at different times. You've seen some clips of them, and at first, I really thought it was him just saying, which he kind of did say, that he doesn't love seeing Izzy saying he's going to sit out for a while. saying it's a waste of talent and don't, waste your prime and come back. So at first I was taking it like he just has been through so many wars with Izzy that he respects him, and he's trying to, and he referenced how Izzy once got him, off the couch and motivated, and he was trying to do the same back to Izzy. But then he ends it with like, Adesanya, come to daddy. So I guess he is trying to tell him to come fight him at light heavyweight, which is not what I thought was happening at first. So I don't know, but I mean, clearly we're not getting that right now. He is fighting Jamal Hill and absolutely should be fighting Jamal Hill, and there's no other fight that should be made right now. So that's where we're going, and Dana has said the same thing. So any Izzy plans are going to have to wait at least past that fight, if not others.
Yeah. Omar, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Jamal Hill. I don't really think it can be anything else. We've already got a shit show of a situation going on at heavyweight. We don't need any more of that nonsense at light heavyweight.
Yeah. Yeah, you finally have the opportunity to make a booking that cleans up everything that's been going on at light heavyweight. You made one booking with Jiri getting his shot. He didn't win. Now you make the Hill one, and then whoever wins that is truly the champ after all of this nonsense for whatever it's been, like a fucking year and a half.
I mean, let's be real. The light heavyweight division has been sketchy since DC left. Since DC's been done, light heavyweight's been like, John
DC
Jones came back for a little bit,
didn't he? Or no?
DC left, and then Bones came back. I felt like for like one fight,
right?
And then,
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's been sketchy
happened
for a while. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I'll be right back. I gotta put my kid down. Carry on without me. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Okay,
no worries. So what Mike was going to do, Mike's on dad duty tonight, if people didn't hear what he was just mumbling right there. So he's got to attend to the child. But what he was just going to do, I'm sure, is cue us up for what we think Jiri Prochazka should be doing next. So I will pitch it to you to start, Omar. What do you like for Jiri?
I was going to go with the winner of Johnny Walker and Ankalaev. I feel like that's probably what makes the most sense in that division right now.
Yeah, to me, there's a lot you could do, and it all really depends on timing because you have Jan and Rakic booked.
Yeah.
And you have Ankalaev and Walker booked. So is the plan that one of those winners is getting the title shot against the winner of Pereira and Hill? Is the plan that those winners are fighting each other? I don't really know what it is. Jiri makes sense against the winner of either of those fights. And he also makes sense against Nikita Krylov, who's been chilling for a while and is on a crazy hot streak and has no one to fight. So if Jiri wants to be active and those other two fights are booked, I don't hate booking Jiri and Krylov either because someone probably dies in that fight too. That'd be a crazy fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I feel like we should wait for Mike to get into the next fight. I feel weird beginning it without him. How soon do we think this man will be back?
I have no idea. I mean, you probably know better than I do with the children.
Yeah.
But let's get into it and hope he comes back.
The Izzy thing really makes no sense to me because he even say Pereira beats Hill. Izzy getting a title shot would still be completely ridiculous. Yeah. Like he'd have to come back and beat someone and not a middleweight. He'd have to take a light heavyweight fight. And I mean, all these names we just said, like Ankalaev, especially if he beats Walker, has a hell of a case for a title shot. Jan is right there. I mean, Rakic, if he's back in the mix, like all these dudes, you can't just leapfrog this whole fucking group of guys with Izzy. So it was different when they thought Pereira might become light heavyweight champ while Izzy was still middleweight champ. Then it's very easy to be like, boom, we're doing this again, title versus title. But that ship has kind of sailed, in my opinion. So, yeah,
I think Pereira just wants the pay-per-view points there. I think he just knows that it's a big sell, regardless of the reason or the whys.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough, I'm sure. But all right, let's move along. So, co-main event of this one, interim heavyweight title. Obviously, we were supposed to be seeing Bones versus Stipe at this event for the heavyweight title. Bones got hurt. Stipe is waiting for him. According to Dana, even after this fight, he said that is still the plan, to do Bones versus Stipe at whatever point in time Bones is ready to do that. So in the meantime, we got Tom Aspinall against Sergei Pavlovich for the interim heavyweight title, and Tom Aspinall ended it in 1 minute, just about minute and a half. So
It
yeah,
was a minute 9, I think, or something like that.
is that what it was? So yeah,
Something
Omar,
crazy.
what was your take on Tom Aspinall's crowning moment?
I don't know about you, but the moment they started that fight, my asshole was tight. Like, I was in distress. My anxiety level was at 100 because you could see from the moment they started squaring off, one fuck up in either direction, somebody was going to get laid the fuck out. Could have very well have been Aspinall in that fight, and it was Sergei Pavlovich, but it really could have gone either way. The reality is the speed, man. The speed from Tom Aspinall is a real fucking problem, and he moves in a way that is not very common for heavyweights to move. Big dudes like that don't bounce. It just doesn't happen. It's one of the reasons why Tyson Fury is as popular as he is with the style of boxing that he has, because he moves so well for such a gigantic human being. And so you've got all of this power, all of this mass, all of this strength behind you, and then you can combine it with the fact that you have mobility. I mean, you become an instant issue in the division. Not to mention, obviously, Tom Aspinall is very skilled, very talented, very smart in the cage. And his ending sequence, man, going right to the body and then right to the head. I mean, that's classic low high shit right there, man. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. The story too that surrounds it, about him not, being able to train, kind of basically coming off the couch and not almost turning down the opportunity because of the injury that he was dealing with before. I think he had a back injury.
Yep.
He had just pulled his back or something like that, so he hadn't even really been able to grapple and train and do anything. And he was about to turn on the opportunity, and he said, fuck it. You know what? This is an opportunity. We can't just say no to things like this. Things like title shots don't come around very often, especially if you turn them down. Once you turn them down, I feel like it becomes harder to get one back. Yep. So he put all his chips in for all intents and purposes. He went all in, and that man delivered, 100% delivered. I could not have been happier in that moment for him. It was a beautiful sight to see.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome.
What have I missed?
I set up this fight for Omar, so that's all you've missed so far.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, first off, I got to address this pre-fight moment because it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I know Omar hated it. I thought you were going to bring it up right there. I got goosebumps from it. To me, it was them giving each other full respect before going to war and basically saying, I'm sorry that 1 minute from now I'm going to kill you, but that's the job. Yeah. And I thought that was a really unique, cool moment.
I don't hate the sentiment. I want to be clear. I don't hate the sentiment. I don't mind it at all. I like shit like that. The way they done went about it, placing each other's hands gently so on each other's shoulders, was fucking weird, man. You don't see anybody ever do that. Like, they could have shook hands. Cool. They could have they could have hugged, and it would have been less fucking weird.
They did hug,
but no.
They did.
Just hugged. Just hugged.
That would have been weirder.
Not how, Mike. Name one time in your life that you have ever held onto a man's shoulder like that while looking.
I disagree.
At him.
I don't think hand on the shoulder is weird. In fact, I think it's a very old school thing that people would do.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Not to mention on the same side, at least create a nice little square there.
Hold on.
Like, you're agreeing about the square. Pavlovich's hand went in the wrong place. I agree with that.
It was weird, man. It was weird. There's a lot of different things I wouldn't have mounted there. Like, again, hug, pound, you know what I mean? A bunch of things. But the shoulder touch on the same side was just...
Moving on to what's important.
No, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
I just need to address this one thing. You think just a hug would have been better? So listen, like this. They're facing off.
Jesus Christ, I'm not talking about him rubbing up on him.
They're staring at each other, and you think that Tom Aspinall should have gone, hey.
No.
Bring it in.
First of all,
Bring it
Mike,
in.
don't make it seem like you've never seen two dudes in the octagon hug, and you know it's not weird.
But
They
they
go
did
in,
hug.
they give each other a little hug, little respect, and then they back away. They don't fucking hold each other through the entirety of the intro.
Loved it, and I'll remember it.
Oh my God.
I'm with Mark. I loved it.
I bet.
Moving along.
I got a little bit of goosebumps. I was like, damn, this is an incredible moment.
Those might not have been goosebumps, dog.
Moving along. Tom Aspinall, let's fucking go. What a win. What a moment. What an absurd level of dominance this man continues to show. I mean, no one can touch him. He's 7 fights in, not counting the Blades fight, where obviously it ended in seconds because of a freak injury. The other 7 fights. And no one has done anything besides get absolutely run over. He has finished 7 dudes in a combined 12 minutes and 6 seconds. Yes, I added this up earlier. He is a generational talent. Your boy has been saying it since day one, and I still don't feel like enough people are talking about just how good Tom Aspinall is. He is the man that can beat John Jones. And this isn't spur-of-the-moment talk like I'm seeing on social media where suddenly people love Tom Aspinall, even after they all just picked Sergei Pavlovich a few days ago going into this fight. I have been saying this. I predicted Tom as heavyweight champ by the end of 2023 on this show. I've been laying out wacky timelines that allow Tom Aspinall to fight John Jones before he retires, even though they didn't make a whole lot of sense. And we are now as close to getting that fight as we can possibly get. And I am giddy about the possibility of seeing it because I really think Tom can do it. And in this fight, it took him one exchange, one time of getting touched where he said, oh, okay, he's long. He can hit me from further away than I thought. And he adjusted that range and he took Sergei out. His speed is on another level. He didn't even use his grappling. And I know I'm going on and on about this dude right now, but I am all the way sold on Tom Aspinall. I can't remember the last time I was this impressed with a heavyweight fighter.
I saw somebody call him the heavyweight GSP. I can't say I fully agree with that analogy,
No,
but
I don't think that's a great analogy.
In that he's well-rounded, but GSP wasn't knocking dudes out in minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, heavyweights.
At least not towards the end. Once he became champion, that shit kind of ended. GSP was fucking people up earlier on in his career.
That's true.
It's true.
But once he got gold, he was like, I'm not losing the gold. We're going to start taking people down. That's it.
GSP is such an interesting character to me. In his post-fight career, he has stayed very much like public, but for what, I don't know. He's like, I'm a healthy person now. I do calisthenics a lot, and I eat meat.
He was always like that, though, to be honest. He was always the guy who was there training. He was always the guy in there doing gymnastics when nobody the fuck else was doing gymnastics. Like, he was always a very fitness-oriented human being in general. But his obsession, I think, with MMA just kind of melded that together. But now that he doesn't need to fight anymore, he can just focus on him and his body. I don't think he has a wife or kids or anything like that. He's never really been very open about his personal life, but it doesn't seem like he's got that kind of family. I'm sure he's got like, brothers and mother and all that other kind of shit. But I don't think he's got like the wife and the kid or anything like that. So I think a lot of his time is just spent kind of still in the fighting space, training and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure he makes a good amount of money doing it all on social media as well, with all the ads and everything else that goes along with it.
It's true.
He's one of those guys that has mastered celebrity. Like,
yeah,
see other celebrities who, when their time ends, it's like, oh yeah, that guy, like, he used to do this thing. And with GSP, it's always like, hey, that's GSP. Like,
yeah,
he's a big deal. Like, we should get his opinion on this random thing we're talking about. Like, he like has clicked into that thing where he's like a being in and of himself. Like,
he is, yeah,
a brand, I should say, not a being.
Yes, that's the right word in today's day and age. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and he's pivoted a little bit, like I said, into like the health and wellness a lot.
Yeah,
because it's a big thing for him now. So people get his opinion on like spinach, and then he's like, "I love spinach. I used to eat it more than I do now." That's
But
I
no,
had
to-
Tom Aspinall is not my favorite GSP comparison. They're different.
okay. Getting back on track here. So Aspinall is now your interim UFC heavyweight champ, and John Jones still has the belt, correct? Because I feel like I've seen a lot of
Yep.
things
Yep.
afterwards that was like Tom Aspinall now is the heavyweight champion. And
John
I've
Jones
seen
still the champ.
so now. What is Stipe going to do? Because now we have a champ and an interim champ, and don't they have to fight?
No. So according to, and this is what I figured going in. I think I was
Yeah.
even saying this last week, but according to Dana, the plan is still that John Jones is fighting Stipe. He has said that it's too big of a fight, that both guys deserve it in terms of that's the fight John wants, and how can you tell John he's not getting Stipe? And that's the fight Stipe wants, and how can you tell Stipe he's not getting John? Basically, just that they're both such greats that they deserve the fight they want for their legacies. And I get it. The question to me is just what do you do with Tom Aspinall? Because this is what I was saying last week,
Yeah.
in that Dana is saying, maybe Tom just waits. And Tom is saying, well, actually, I shouldn't say he's saying he wants to wait. He's saying, give me one of Bones or Stipe. He wants his opportunity at a legend. If you told him he had to wait, I don't know if his tune changes. But to me, I don't see how he doesn't have to defend that interim belt, because we're not getting Bones and Stipe for a while. And I really don't see Aspinall choosing to sit out for that long. So if you ask me what happens, I still think he's going to fight Cyril Gane for the interim title. I don't think he wants to do that. He's already said, you should go fight Almeida, or whatever his quote was on that.
Yep.
But I think that's the fight that's going to get presented to him.
Let's say, as an example, John Jones is good. He doesn't need 8 weeks after all. Maybe he just needs 4 or 5 or whatever, right? So he'll be healed up before the year is over. Let's say we book a fight in March with him and Stipe.
No, dude, it was 8 months, not weeks.
I'm sorry.
Towards Peck.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
but then they lowered it and said he might be back in
4 to
6.
8 months. 4 to 8 months.
Yeah.
So let's say we talk about like summer of next year.
So wait, when did he tear it? About a month ago? Yeah.
Last month, yeah.
Less than that.
Yeah.
So that was, call it mid-October. So
I think it was like the first week of November, actually.
yeah, so he ain't fighting until summer at the absolute earliest. It's probably like July at best.
So let's say they book it. Let's say everybody's like Aspinall's down to wait, whatever. And we get to like May or June. And one of these motherfuckers pulls out again for whatever reason, injury, whatever. What do you do? Do you just say,
then the
fuck
other
it?
dude's fighting Aspinall
You just
without
have
question.
to, right? You can't
Oh,
just
yeah, you can't keep catering to them again.
Okay.
That would be wild.
It would be.
But
It would be crazy.
In the scenario you just laid out, if this does get rebooked, say it's July, knowing fucking Bones and Stipe, when are they fighting next? December? January? So you tell me Aspinall's not going to fight for over a year? It's just not realistic.
But here's the other issue, is John Jones has such a propensity to not fight dudes last minute that if this happens, I don't see John Jones being like, yeah, all right, I'll take Tom Aspinall because he's the champion. Like, I just don't. It makes sense. He should, but I don't.
And then that's why you keep Tom active. And if bullshit just keeps happening, then Tom becomes your heavyweight champion. And that's why I think you don't make him wait. You book, and you can book it first. You can book him and Gane in fucking May or April, whatever. And then you have a winner coming out of that fight looking incredible, and you have that lined up, and you're saying this man's going to fight the winner of Bones and Stipe. And if Bones and Stipe falls apart again, then fuck it. Then Tom's your heavyweight champ, and you move forward.
Yeah. I wonder if Tom needs any injury related stuff there with his back. I don't know if he needs anything there, but
yeah. But the reason I'm saying Gane is just simply because he is ranked number one. Although I haven't looked at the rankings, is he still one? I mean, nothing should have changed. Or I guess Tom is one since John is the champ. How the fuck does that work? I guess not, right? It'll say champ, interim champ, and then one.
Yeah.
No, Tom does say one, so Gane says 2 now. But you get my point. He's the next ranked contender, and plus that's a huge fight in Europe. I mean, you do that in You do it in France, it's huge. That would suck for Tom. He's the champ. But you do that if you could do that fight in London, that would be enormous.
Oh yeah.
I think the venue might be better in London, just overall with the amount of seats and all that stuff. I feel like they have better venues over there for that.
Agree. Yeah, that's my guess.
Man, let's go back to this fight. Tom Aspinall fought probably the perfect way to fight a stand-up fight against Sergei Pavlovich. That's how you have to do it. And not many heavyweights are even capable of doing that.
That's really the point, is there's not many heavyweights at this point against Pavlovich specifically that would even be able to fight the way that he fought that fight. Right? Like, I think the best course of action for most dudes are probably going to be to take him down, or try to take him down. Right? Yeah. But Tom can literally get his punches there faster than Pavlovich can shoot his off. And it made all the difference.
Gane can try to fight him that way, but Gane doesn't have one-shot power like Tom has. So Gane, you would think, would have to do that for longer and avoid Pavlovich's punches for longer to be able to pull that off.
Gane actually has a good set of combinations in his repertoire, though. Like, that man actually fights pretty goddamn well when it comes. You know, when he's on, man, and he's moving, he's got his momentum. His combinations and his flow are really fucked up. Like,
they might be prettier than Tom's are. I'm just saying he's not killing guys in a minute like Tom is, because he doesn't have the same fight finishing power.
Yeah.
Or at least he doesn't throw his strikes with it generally.
Okay. Well, we should move on, shouldn't we? In the interest of time.
Let's do Sergei quick.
Mark, who do you think Sergei Pavlovich should fight next?
So I think he should fight Volkov. To me, the two fights to make outside of the picture we just discussed are Almeida against Blades and Pavlovich against Volkov. Volkov's on a great run. He deserves another shot at a big name. Him and Pavlovich have never fought before. I think that's the fight to make.
Omar, any other bright ideas?
I think we kind of already touched on some of it there. Just Cyril Gane, I feel like somewhere in there needs to be part of the mix. But I actually had Jailton Almeida up in there as well.
Isn't it Jailton?
Jailton Almeida. I figure at this point, if we want to throw him into deep water, I'm not really against it.
Dude, I'm here for it. I think Almeida, he's made it to the big time at this point. I want to see him against.
I thought you guys both wanted him in Blades so badly.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying,
every
Blades
week
is number 5.
That's
what I'm saying.
Me.
No, but you guys just both said you wanted him in Pavlovich.
I didn't say that. I just said he's made it up to the upper echelon.
Oh.
Yeah. But I will. I am fully aware that I say shit one week, and then the next week something happens. I'm like, I'll throw that guy at this guy
Not
too.
me.
Fuck it. Let's see what's
not me, man. I'm Mr. Consistency. Damn it.
Look, how many people did we throw at Dominic Reyes before they finally landed on something?
So many. But
like
then
the
we
whole
did say
division, we just poured out on Dominic Reyes.
Okay, real quick, I want to ask you guys this before we move on from these heavyweights. Mark, go first. Gun to your head. Tom Aspinall versus Francis Ngannou. Gut shot pick.
There's no human I'm picking over Tom Aspinall at this point in time. And there probably wasn't before this fight happened. There probably wasn't fights ago. I signed up for this man, and you can't shake me until something goes wrong.
Yeah, dude, I'm not picking against Aspinall probably for a good.
Over Ngannou? Interesting.
I mean, Ngannou is really fun and really good. And to be honest, the thing that I love about Ngannou is I don't even really know what to expect anymore, because his performance against Fury was a lot better than I think I ever even imagined it could be. So I don't know if it's like a run over or anything like that. I think it would be a good fight, but just Tom Aspinall brings something crazy to the table that just, it's not like Tom Aspinall doesn't have power. You know what I mean? Like, he has
clearly not
power, but I don't think Ngannou has the hand speed that Tom Aspinall does. I just don't.
Really? Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, the reason John is so interesting for him is because of how little John gets hit, and because his wrestling can match or exceed, I should say. And I don't mean to be dismissing John's. His wrestling is, you would think, even better than Tom's, unless Tom ends up showing us otherwise. But that's why that's That's so intriguing. But Tom is the first opponent that Bones will have had in ages ever who can do everything very well.
Yeah. Yeah. And is a giant and is not smaller than John.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, very interesting package in those two guys. Okay, let's move on. In the women's strawweight division on the main card, UFC 295 at Madison Square Garden in New York City, Jessica Andrade gets back in the win column, emphatically knocking out Mackenzie Dern in the second round. The official time 3:15 of round number 2. Mark, lead us off this time. Give us your thoughts on the performances of both of these ladies. Jessica Andrade winning with style, and Mackenzie Dern showing a little bit of concern. And the commentators were, I think one of them threw out that she regressed in her striking. Are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll take this one from both angles, and I'll start with the winner. Awesome to see Jessica Andrade get herself a big win again and get back on track. To see someone as talented as she is lose 3 in a row felt pretty wild, and I'm glad for her that the streak didn't go to 4. And she came in with a great game plan for this fight. Keep her space and strike. That was pretty much it. And use the calf kicks to do that, to maintain that space, and also to slow Mackenzie's movement down and make her more hittable. And and just look for openings in the exchanges. And that's exactly how she knew she had to fight this fight. It's how any of us would have told her to fight this fight. It was the obvious thing that she had to do, and she executed it perfectly. To switch to Mackenzie, which I felt like was a little bit more the story of this fight. I just talked about how Jessica's game plan was perfect. What was Mackenzie's? There was almost zero effort to get inside. One time when they clinched, she threw a knee and separated, which you would imagine is the opposite of what she would try to do in that spot. There were no level changes from her. Never even made Jessica have to think about a takedown. There was no effort to get inside or to back Jessica up against the fence. I just don't get what the plan was going in. Like, did they think they were going to beat Jessica Andrade in a kickboxing match? Because they never, ever were. And then beyond that, as much as Mackenzie Dern has made strides in her striking and show that off in fights like the Angela Hill fight, she is still not a natural striker by any means, and it haunted her in this fight. When she is set and can say, like, okay, I'm going to throw this 1-2, I'm going to throw this combo, and so on, you can see those strides, and she even looks pretty good. But as soon as exchanges move past those initial punches and initial steps in her footwork, if it lasts any longer than a couple of seconds without a reset, she gets lost. And DC called it out live, and it's all I could think about rewatching it. Anytime she gets knocked off her mark, balance-wise, her head never gets back to where it should be. It's just like out there in the wind. And she got dropped 4 times in this fight. The last time she was already wobbled and Andrade just stalked her. But all 3 drops before that happened after the initial exchanges of a striking sequence. It's when the sequence is still going and she doesn't get to reset, and that's when she gets caught. And that's one of the biggest differences between a natural striker and someone trying to pick it up, because that part is harder to teach than the beginnings of the exchanges. So huge win for Jessica in her career, and definitely still some things to work on for Mackenzie Dern.
Okay, Omar, give us your thoughts on the techniques that Mackenzie Dern was throwing out there and having some success with and some not so much.
I feel like when I watched this fight, I felt like there was a way for what Mackenzie was trying to doing for it to work, but it just wasn't. It gave me shades of Ronda and Holly Holm, in the sense that you had, and no shades of Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern's got way better hands, like no shade. But the reason I compare those two together is because Mackenzie Dern tried to go down a road where she tried to primarily strike against somebody who excels at striking. Mackenzie Dern is known for taking people's limbs home with her. And I think her inability to take that fight down to the ground, keep it to the ground, and work her advantage cost her the entire fight. because the longer that fight, and she started off, I thought, pretty well in the striking department. I thought she had some moments and things like that. The problem is when you're fighting somebody who is that good of a striker, the more you strike with them, the more time you spend there in front of their face, the more they're going to have the opportunity to get your timing, to get something off. And Andrade is one of those people. She's like the Derek Lewis of the little women down there. She needs one hit and she will lay anybody in that division the fuck out. Period.
It's true.
And Mackenzie Dern, once she got hit, she was not the same Mackenzie Dern. The girl's got heart. She got up, she kept going, she kept moving, but you could see the performance was just getting worse and worse as time continued to progress. She was hurt. She was continuing to get hurt. And any opportunity she had to try to get it down to the ground, her clinch game wasn't working right. She wasn't able to get any kind of trips or throws off. She wasn't able to even pull guard in that fight. Not that she necessarily attempted it. But it just wasn't working for her, man. And I think it was one of those moments of quicksand, right? Where one thing went wrong and it was difficult to recover, and then another, and then another, and then another. And before you know it, you're getting mollywopped by Jessica Andrade. You're rolling backwards on the ground, and the referee's coming to save your ass.
Yeah, at some points it was not fun to watch. Because I love Mackenzie Dern, and I think that she is and still will be one of the darlings of the UFC. And I hope that she can shore up those weaknesses in her game, because overall, she's still, I think, a threat in this division. And if she can become a little bit more of a threat on the feet and earn some more respect from her opponents, I think the sky's the limit. That being said, let's talk about where is Mackenzie Dern going to go from here. Let's talk about her first, and then we'll get to the winner, Jessica Andrade. Omar, give me a name for Mackenzie Dern of who you'd like her to go up against next.
So for Mackenzie Dern, I thought the one that made the most sense would be the winner of Amanda Ribas and Luana Pinheiro. They're all kind of right around in that little mix there. Last week, I talked about the loser fighting Angela Hill. And so this week, I think the winner should fight Mackenzie Dern.
Mark?
I think she should fight Loopy. We're going to talk about Loopy in a little bit. She got herself a great win. She has had a great 2023. She deserves one of these girls who are in that upper, level of the division, who've all kind of been fighting each other for a bit. She's right outside of it now, and I think that's the perfect one. So I'm going Mackenzie and Loopy.
Let's do it. Okay, Mark, staying with you, what about Jessica Andrade getting back to the win column? If you were the matchmaker of the UFC, what would you do with her next?
There's one fight and one fight only. We've mentioned it before on here as a fight that has incredibly never happened. The timing didn't work because Carla Esparza was out pregnant. She is on her way back now. Has to happen. I need that fight. Jessica Andrade and Carla Esparza.
Woo! Omar, your thoughts?
I think for me, I had Virna Jandiroba for Andrade.
Okay.
It's a lot of Portuguese there.
I like it. All right, boys. Let's keep going down the list here. Ooh, a fun one. Man, this one did not last very long. In the lightweight division, Benoit Saint-Denis gets another finish, this time over Matt Frevola in the very first round, the official time, 1:31 of round number 1. Omar, start us off. Give us your thoughts on Benoit Saint-Denis. The man keeps marching on in this so far stunning UFC career.
I mean, what can you say, man? I mean, I think we all took Frevola, right? Or at least a good majority of us, I feel like, took Frevola last week.
Only you.
No? Was it just
Only
me?
you.
Fuck me.
Yes.
You took
All
the
right.
steamroller.
Well, yeah, man, I like Frevola, man. I think he still has a lot of potential. I think he's still very good, but Benoit Saint-Denis is a beast, man. He's just an animal. And that lightweight division is and has been a murderer's row for like forever, it feels like. And Benoit Saint-Denis has just added himself right to that mix. And that head kick was so disgusting. You could see it opened up Frevola right away as soon as it landed, ruined his whole life. And I felt bad, man. I felt bad because it was really early on in the fight. We hadn't even really gotten very started in that fight, so it was a moment where he dropped his hands. He shouldn't have dropped his hands, and he got caught. And unfortunately, that can happen from time to time. And hopefully, Frevola gets back on track. But huge win for Saint-Denis.
Yeah, it happened kind of fast. It seems like Frevola thought he was out of range, and he got kind of surprised by how quickly that kick came up. Mark, bringing you in here, give us your thoughts of the Frenchman, Benoit Saint-Denis, and this big win.
Benoit Saint-Denis is a problem. He is the real deal, and he may be title picture real deal. He has looked unbelievable. He does not stop coming, and the pace is just crazy. And you might say, like, oh, well, the pace didn't really come into play in this fight. It was over in a minute and a half, but it did. When they separated from the clinch after those crazy grappling exchanges, Matt Frevola hit the quick backpedal circle, and you just alluded to this, Mike. He hit the quick backpedal circle away to get away and create space because he wanted to reset after all of that. And most fighters allow that to happen in that moment. And Benoit didn't. He ran right with him, and he attacked Matt in a moment of the fight where he thought he was going to have space. And his guard was down because of it, and he ate a head kick. And that was all she wrote. Also, it seems impossible to hold Benoit down. Twice Matt was on top. And once he got swept, and the other time Benoit literally just stood up. So, yeah, this guy is a problem. God of War has been pretty accurate to this point. Big night for him. Definitely burst onto the lightweight scene. And then thanking America for the help in World War I and World War II was a highly underrated moment on the mic from him as well.
I wasn't sure if he was being sincere, if he was just trying to
He
ingratiate.
100% was.
He was trying to ingratiate himself with the New York American audience. Thanks, guys, for your help in World War I and World War II.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
What are we talking about?
You could tell that
So
boy's
funny.
been waiting to give that thank you for quite some time.
That was so funny.
He himself felt weird about it because he was like, it was many years ago. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Are we matching them up? Did we match them up yet?
Nope.
Saint-Denis?
We did not.
Nope.
Mark, go first.
I mean, you could go some different ways for sure. It's the same issue we always run into in this fucking division is like, is Poirier going to fight Benoit Saint-Denis? No. Chandler's waiting for Connor. It's all the same type of issues. Obviously, some guys are booked. I think you go Gamrot. I think him and Gamrot, again, I referenced the European card earlier being huge for Aspinall and Gane. I think on a European card, Benoit and Gamrot is huge. And Gamrot needs a fight. Doesn't seem to be getting one at the moment. So that is where I would go.
Yeah, it seems like the Poiriers and the Gaethjes of the division are kind of similar to the John Joneses and the Stipe Miocises of the heavyweight division. It's like they're like, I've earned this spot. I'm not here to fight any more up and coming guys who can take my head off.
I will say that I think not now. He would have to win another one. But I think Benoit has a better chance of getting a fight like that than someone like a Sarukian or a Gamrot because of the way they fight. I think a Dustin or a Gaethje looks at Sarukian or Gamrot and they're like, I don't want to deal with that grappling all fight. Like, I'm just trying to have a fun fight. And Benoit, I think, gets their juices flowing a little more in that they're like, damn, this guy is fucking walking through everyone and finishing everyone. And I am Dustin Poirier, and I'm going to show that he can't do that to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think he has a little bit of a better chance of getting that type of fight. He'd have to win another one still.
For sure. Yeah. Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, I was going to go with Jalen Turner. I think Jalen Turner is a good option for Saint-Denis. I think that considering Turner doesn't have a fight right now, And from a stylistic standpoint, I think that would answer some questions on how Saint-Denis can deal with some of the bigger guys in the division, or at least the lankier, taller dudes in the division. And stylistically, like I said, I think it'd be a fun fight. So I'm going to go with the Jalen Turner.
Nice. What about Matt Frevola? When you look at the lightweight division, Omar, who do you think the Ray Longo fighter could match up well with next?
I think for Frevola, I would love to see him still kind of in that little lower top 15 echelon. I don't really think he needs to get bumped all the way back. I think he had really good momentum and he got caught. But like I said, I still think he deserves to be there. And I think fighting Renato Moicano would be a good test to make sure that he deserves to still be in that area.
I love Moicano. Mark, what are your thoughts on Frevola's next opponent?
That's a good fight, and I agree. That's definitely the area he should still be considered in. I think there's a good handful of options in that area, just because there's like 25 lightweights that are so legit. But I think Grant Dawson could work. He's another guy who kind of just got knocked out of the rankings. And then I also think the loser of the upcoming Dan Hooker-Bobby Green fight could be a good option as well.
You know what I love about MMA? I've been watching MMA so long that I've collected so many of the funny fucking moments. And Renato Moicano, that the post-fight interview he did with Rogan, he was just screaming for like a minute. And he was like, "Let's fucking go." Was he in New York for that? Was that also in New York?
I don't remember.
Oh my God. Every time I fucking watch that, I die.
It was fantastic.
What did he say that he wanted beer or something like that? He was like, "I want beer."
I can't even remember it. I just remember it was great.
Whew. It's hard to beat though when Anthony Smith told Johnny Walker that he attacked his family.
But the best
Johnny Walker was like,
Johnny Walker had no idea what the fuck was going on. That's really what makes that whole thing amazing. Is Johnny Walker had no idea.
The fucking meme after the Ankalaev fight of that ref that didn't know what the fuck he was doing, talking to Anthony Smith, and the question is, why did you attack Anthony Smith's family? Oh God, he fucking murdered me.
It's so good, dude. MMA memes are the funniest.
Oh man,
I can't take it. I can't take
Pull
it.
it together.
We're
an hour into the show. We haven't even finished the recaps.
Okay,
man. Let's go.
In the featherweight division, Diego Lopes defeats Pat Sabatini by knockout. Also in the very first round, 1:30 of round number 1. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take of the still very impressive Brazilian Diego Lopes.
Dude, are you who's picking against Diego Lopes in his next fight?
No.
Oh, against him? I was gonna say no. Yeah, I think we all learned. We all learned there. I've been on the Diego Lopes train for a minute now since we saw him. There was just something very unique about the way he fights. For whatever reason, I don't think I was fully aware that man fought at 145. I don't think it really had clicked in my head. The way he fights, he just seems like such a bigger dude. I don't know, but he is a really impressive man. My wife hates his haircut. I keep trying to tell her it's his signature. I mean, just take away the fact that he may have cut it a little odd. That hair is fucking luxurious, my guy. Like that is a horsehair mane right there. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's some real flow in that hair, man. But that's his signature look. I mean, it's how people are going to recognize him and know him. And the reality is, man, that fight was absolutely amazing. I mean, we haven't seen anybody really do that to Pat Sabatini, obviously. And he made it look easy. And there's something to be said for that at this point. So good on Diego Lopes. I'm excited to see kind of where he goes. I really think he can go all the way, man. I don't. It's very difficult for me to see where he plateaus in that division, without reaching the top echelon first. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where he goes.
Yeah, man.
Dude, Mark, he's really good. And I don't fully understand it. Like, how is a guy who lost to Nate Richardson only a couple fights before joining the UFC, this good. And I'm not saying Richardson is like some random guy. He's a decent fighter, but like he's fighting over in LFA and Fury FC, and he's 3-3 in his last 6 fights, and he beat Diego Lopes. And now here Diego Lopes is going to war with Movsar Evloev and beating Gavin Tucker and Pat Sabatini in a combined 3 minutes. Like I just wasn't ready to believe that it's this real. But God, it certainly seems like it is. He has good size for the division. He's strong. He can certainly tap you in a myriad of ways. And now he's showing that he can finish you on the feet as well. And despite being 29 fights into his pro career, he's only 28 years old. So I think what we're witnessing is just a guy hitting his prime right now on the biggest stage at the perfect time.
Indeed. Let's talk about what could be next for him. Sorry, I'm looking at the baby monitor. My kids are
Sorry, I thought you were going to leave.
Let's talk about where these guys are going to go from here. Is that where we're up to?
I'm sorry. Who's going first?
I couldn't hear you.
Oh,
yeah, Mark, go first. Where is
Diego
Lopes going to go from here?
I think it's time for a prove-it fight against an established name. I'm going Dan Ige. Let's find out.
Let's go. Omar, what are your thoughts?
I am going in the Sadiq Youssef route. Tell me that's not a fucking banger right there, my guy. That's a fucking fight right there. I love it.
Yep.
Okay. What about his opponent? Pat Sabatini. What do you guys think about where he could go from here? Omar?
Pat Sabatini, for me, I was going down the direction of the loser of the Joe Anderson, Brito, and Jonathan Pierce fight.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I just think that, again, they're kind of in that same give or take area. So I think that'd be a fun fight.
Mark?
I'll say Alexander Hernandez, assuming he stays at featherweight. You know, Pat, despite the talent he's shown, he's not really been able to break through into that kind of upper part of the division. This wasn't a great loss. And, you know, Hernandez has kind of had the same deal where he can't really break through, even though he started hot in the UFC. So I think pitting those two against each other makes some sense.
Nice. All right, boys. Let us now hop into our lightning round. Please give me your shortest takes, your short and sometimes hot takes on the rest of these results from UFC 295 at MSG this past Saturday night.
So
in the flyweight division.
I'll say quickly before you start to anyone who may not have been listening to our intro, if you're just watching the UFC clip here. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see 3 of these fights. I had a crazy day today. I never got to catch up. So 3 of these are going to be all Omar, but I'll be in on the rest of them.
Okay, Steve Erceg, UD over Alessandro Costa. Mark?
This was a good scrap, man. Steve Erceg looked really good in moments here. He's very poised. His grappling is so damn good. But Costa was tough. He's a black belt. He went toe-to-toe with Erceg in the grappling early. And then in round 2, it really looked like he might change the fight because he took that round handily. He upped the aggression. He was landing some big strikes. He worked his own takedown. And overall, he fought pretty well. And he almost found the recipe there, but he got tired by round 3. So you wonder if he had a full camp and hadn't taken this on short notice, if maybe we would have ended up seeing a different result. But in this one, Erceg was able to take over again late and make sure he got himself the W.
Omar?
Yes. I actually really like Steve Erceg in this fight. I thought it was relatively competitive, but I just thought Steve Erceg was the one cracking a little bit more. Especially once we got into the later rounds, I just felt like Costa started to fade a little bit and was just getting tagged a little bit more. So I thought it was a good decision. I thought it was a good call for Erceg to win, and it was a fun fight.
Luby Godinez split decision over Tabitha Ricci. Omar?
Dude, I don't know what's going on with Lupi Godinez, man, but she looks so fucking good now. I don't remember having this much fun watching her fights. I really don't. I should maybe go back and see if that's the case or not, but the last 2 or 3 fights that she's had, I have been on board with it. And this one was no different, man. I'm not really sure. I had Godinez winning that fight 2-1. I thought pretty clearly, though the rounds were competitive. They weren't like blown away rounds, but I did think it was clear that Loopy won that fight. So I'm a little concerned that there was one judge who didn't think that, but I am glad that it went to Loopy, and I'm glad that we still see her winning.
Mark.
Yeah, like you said, it was a solid scrap the whole way through, but the result was not up for discussion. Loopy 100% won this fight, at least 29-28, and I'd be more comfortable if you scored it 30-27 for Loopy than I would if you scored the fight for Ricci in any fashion. And this one idiot, Brian Miner, didn't just score it for Ricci, he scored it 30-27 for Ricci, which is
That's right.
inexplicable. The second round is the only one you can even argue for her. So it's baffling scorecard. Loopy was the better boxer all night long. She was the one landing the more solid shots. She stuffed every takedown. I mean, sure, Ricci was quick, but all her shots looked like she was holding back almost because of her concern of what was coming back at her from Loopy. So I thought it was a great performance from Godinez, and she continues a big 2023.
Okay, Mateus Rebecki, round 1 sub over Roosevelt Roberts. Mark?
This was a wild visual, first off. Roosevelt was so much bigger than Rombeski, and it didn't matter, man. Mateus just marched him down, brought it to the mat, and then from there, Roberts was in trouble. You know, Rombeski is so nasty on the ground, and you saw it again here. He transitioned right to the armbar from the back, and Roberts saw it coming and still couldn't stop it. Great win, and Rombeski is absolutely a name to watch. It's time to move him up the line.
Omar?
Yeah, man, I fell for Roberts in this fight. We've seen him on Tough. We've seen the second, resurgence of him trying to come back into the UFC and stuff like that. And I fell for him because he kind of got run over a little bit, man. Didn't even really seem comfortable in the striking in that fight. Obviously, he had the length, but I mean, dude, you could see the physical difference in the thickness of Rebeshki and the slenderness of Roberts, and the power differential must have been night and day different. I can only imagine how much strength separated them when they were actually grappling and in the clinch together. Rebeshki must feel like a fucking tank that could not be moved. I fell for Roberts in that fight. Seems all in all seemed like a bad matchup for him, but I mean that's the shit you're gonna run into in the UFC, man.
Okay,
Yeah, and he took it on 5 days' notice or whatever the hell it was.
I don't think with 3 months he would have been able to do anything against that dude.
Yeah.
Okay, Nazim Sadikov and Vyacheslav Borshev, majority draw. Omar?
Sadikov. So this fight was kind of wild, right? Because the first round of this fight, Borshev had this first round. It was, if you've watched Borshev fight before, he's very active, very movie, right? He moves around a lot, was landing some nice strikes, was able to put things together. Sadikov was throwing, was in the fight. This was not, again, he got run over or anything like that. But I thought Borshev clearly had won the first round just based on activity and actual shit that landed. Sadikov in a lot of the first round was kind of falling short a little bit, just like a step or two behind. Did land some things here and there, but overall it was Borshev's a game in the first round. Second round comes, and Borshev ends up getting fucked up. I mean, Sadikov just beats the whole, first he cracks him, drops him, right? I think he hit him with a left hook that wobbled him, and then he hit him with a left kick to the head following up that launched Borshev right into the cage, and then Sadikov goes in, jumps on him, tries to get crazy with him. I think that really cost him because, one, I think he burned himself out a little bit trying to finish him the way he tried to finish him, and two, he was so crazy that there wasn't any real control over the ability to finish him while taking advantage of how hurt he was. And instead, he ended up in his guard, kind of went to mount from time to time, opened him up with an elbow and things like that, but never allowed, I guess Borshev never allowed himself to not be in a defensive mode the whole time where he wasn't still active, wasn't still moving. but there was definitely a moment there where you thought that that fight was going to be done. And I think that that was really where the 10-8 round came into play in that second round. Then you have the third round, and somehow Borisov goes back to his corner in the end of second round, bloodied, beaten to shit, all kinds of messed up. Comes out in the third round, looks like he's fine. Just starts bouncing around again, starts fighting, and clearly wins the third round. I mean, Sadikov at that point had been completely kind of worn out, was still throwing and still kind of in it, but you could see that the power had gone down a ton from the first round, and Borisov was still working. So it was a very impressive performance of heart from Borisov and durability. But I think Sadikov gave that fight away, man. It ended up being a draw just because Borisov came back in that third round to get 1 and 3, while obviously round 2 was a 10-8, but Sadikov should have been able to seal that deal in round 2.
Okay, Jared Gordon, round 1 TKO over Mark Madsen. Mark.
Good thing I didn't see that fight, so I could concede all of my time to Omar.
Yeah, I figured I'd give you the whole rundown of the fight since you hadn't seen it.
It sounds good. I gotta watch it.
It was good.
So yeah, Gordon and Madsen. This was a wild fight for as long as it lasted. It was honestly the most entertaining Mark Madsen we've seen thus far. I mean, he came out and was all over Jared Gordon, just swarming him, pushing a pace. But Jared Gordon said, all right, you want to make it a dogfight? Then a dogfight it is. And he withstood it, and he took over the clinch, which Madsen thought would be a weapon for him. And Gordon swung it in his favor, and he found a couple huge shots that changed the fight in the clinch and put Madsen down. And then he gave a hell of a post-fight speech on top of it about his past and, you know, things he used to do in the same arena he won this fight in. It was awesome. Great night for Jared Gordon.
Omar.
Jared Gordon pulled this one out. Here's my take, right? Like I want to give Jared Gordon a lot of credit here, and you know, there is credit that deserves to be there. He obviously had a good fight, obviously won, knocked him out. As Michael Bisping would say, God bless him. But my thing is, Jared Gordon, like, I don't think his striking was that much better, if we're being wholly honest. I thought Mark Madsen was in that fight for a little bit. I thought Jared Gordon, you know, was doing what he did. But when we got into the clinch, we got into that dirty boxing, there's like no durability for Mark Madsen. Like, he got cracked with one thing and his legs went out and he never recovered from it. And then it was one little nothing shot on the right side, and that man dropped like somebody hit him with a fucking baseball bat. There wasn't even a turn in the hip for that right hand. He had been hit with way harder stuff before that point, and I think he just the damage I think had just built up, and he just went completely down. But that dude's chin has not been his friend in his career, and I don't think it's going to get better from here.
I think,
isn't that the first time he ever got knocked out?
Is it? He looks. I feel like I remember him getting maybe not knocked out all the way, but he's gotten fucked up.
Maybe.
I mean, Madsen seems like the kind of guy who shows damage easily on his face and head.
Maybe that's very possible.
I don't think he's been finished before.
Well, he got choked out by Dawson.
Grant Dawson choked him out.
That.
But did he get fucked up in that fight? God damn it!
I mean, he just got beat on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. Okay, John Castaneda, UD over Kyung Ho Kang. Omar, go.
This fight I wasn't super thrilled about, to be wholly honest, man. My biggest issue with this fight is that it felt like a spar. Kang really wasn't putting a ton into it. He was doing a lot of weird things where he was giving his back a lot in the fight, spinning all the way around and doing a lot of weird shit that made that fight very odd. I thought Castaneda did enough. I thought Castaneda did more than Kang did to warrant a unanimous decision win. But overall, man, that whole fight just felt like a spar and wasn't really as entertaining to watch as it should have been, I think.
Okay, Joshua Van, UD over Kevin Borjas. Mark?
Didn't see it. It's still over.
Oh, this one? Oh, my bad. I should have written that down as well.
So the way that I just talked about Castaneda and Kang being a sparring match, this one between Van and Borjas was fucking not. This was two dudes that were trying to murder each other for 15 minutes. This was one of the most ridiculous fights on this entire card. The back and forth was absolutely wild. Borjas was lighting Van up at the early stages of this fight, and then dropped him at one point with one of the most beautiful 1-2s you'll see, man. Right down the pocket, tight shoulders, tight guard in between, literal pistons that just came right out, right back in. I mean, beautiful, beautiful technique from Borjas in that sense. And then somewhere along the line, I think it was right around the end of the first, or maybe even into the second, Borjas started to get that bad habit that we see Edson Barboza have, where he starts pedaling on his back foot and starts biking backwards. And by the time you realize it, you've basically just been running backwards around the octagon for like the last 3.5 minutes. Van took full advantage of it, kept coming forward. And when I tell you, this man ripped Borjas's body up for like 2 rounds, man. So apparently, actually, now that I do say that, I do remember now, Van actually created a new record with 53 body shots landed.
Wow.
And I think the previous one was 51. So now he owns that record for most body shots landed. I don't know if it was in a UFC fight or within that division, but definitely a new record for sure. He was tearing this kid up to the body. And definitely warranted that win. Second and third round were Van's all the way. First round, you could definitely give that to Borjas.
Okay, last one. Jamal Emmers, TKO in round 1 over Dennis Bezucha. Mark?
Jamal Emmers showed you everything you've been wanting to see from him in that fight. He's had some tough results, but you could see the talent, and now he delivered on it in a huge way. He came out fast. He came out aggressive, moving well. His timing was on point. It all came together finally for him. He needed one like that, and he got it.
Omar, take us home.
Yeah, dude. I was a little sad with this one because I really like, obviously, the Serra Longo team and those cats from Long Island and stuff like that. But Jamal Emmers looked like he had his number from the moment that fight started. The distance management was on point. And he cracked him, man. He cracked him with a right hand right down the pipe and just never let him get up. What he was able to do in that fight was what Sadikov should have been able to do in his fight against Borshov. So good on Emmers for being able to capitalize and finish. Big win.
Okay, that does it for UFC 295. And now let's put a